I, a critical gaze in Sylvia Plath's journal and diaries. Failure of logos in framing the sentence of self is not an alphabetical lack, but in the anxiety structure, it is a point and loop, both in terms of time and space. The Diaries of Sylvia Plath brings forward a spectral I in a narrative space which decodes the alphabetical methodology of existence in terms of written self. In the post-structuralist discourse, the site of one's identity has been continually revisited by critics and simulations of singularity and stability interrupted, resulting in the vacuum to be filled with signifiers that celebrate the plurality of identity. At a time when the semblance of coherence has dissipated and what remains is an unstable, incoherent and ambiguous space, I propose to study the non-identity of Sylvia Plath's narrative I. As she herself writes, quote, God, who am I? Girls everywhere, reading books, intent faces, flesh, pink, white, yellow. And I sit here without identity, faceless, close quote. Okay. Each subject is barred, according to Lacan, and is trapped forever in the symbolic order. This is metaphorically represented in the narratorial depiction of Plath as a prisoner imprisoned in a neurotic mind palace, first by her parents and then by her fear of her own power and identity in the very space she inhabits. And I quote, I can't tell mother, not yet anyway. Quote close. Coming to terms with who she is led her to put on a mask, a disguise of a recluse, or that of a prisoner, thereby betraying the plurality of identity. And I quote, look at that ugly dead mask here, and do not forget it. It is a chalk mask with dead, dry poison behind it. Like the dead angel, it is what I this fall, and what I never want to be again. Derrida's post-structuralist theory implies that the focus on the self has become one of the defining issues of modern and postmodern cultures. And at the same time, the topic of subjectivity has interested scholars across multidisciplinary topologies such as philosophy, psychology, and literature. Due to multiplicity of approaches, subjectivity and self has become problematized concepts. And I would like to quote from her texts. She says, to discover the multiplicity in her, and I sit here without identity, faceless. My head aches. There is history to read, centuries to comprehend before I sleep, millions of life to assimilate before breakfast tomorrow. Yet I know that back at the house, there is my room full of presents. Now, what presents she's talking about? In a room, the spectral I has been present. You know, we all know a lot and not a lot about Sylvia Plath from her journals, because as we know that most of her journals have been burnt by Ted Hughes himself, claiming that, well, if my wife's journal would be all published, my children will be in the front. That is a very well-noted fact, and he declares it in the volumes of the letters and journals that is being published, and he writes it in the preface that I can't publish all of them. Now, there are a lot of hints as to what remained unpublished. What that spectral I that Plath finds herself being decentered I. She, as a daughter, has a miserable childhood, and that has somehow put her in the loop of time. And this full of presence in her room that she wants to go back to is very, very intriguing and interesting. Because we all know that Sylvia Plath shared a kind of a dual relationship with her father. She hated her father and loved her. She hated her father and loved him very much. If you see some of the examples which I will be later giving, you can know the attachment, the daughter-father attachment, because her mother, as we know, died of suicide, right? Because she was a Jew and she's being manhandled and malhandled by the Nazi husband, that is Plath's father. Then she says, another place of dysentery, quoting, "I am torn in different directions, pulled thin, taut against horizon, too distant for me to reach, to stop with the German tribes and rest a while. But no, no, no. On, through ages of empires, of decline and fall, swift, ceaseless pace, I will never rest in sunlight again, slow, languid, and golden peace." Now, my paper will be subdivided into three particular headings. One of them will be biopower. I will be dealing with the Foucauldian idea of biopower. The second aspect will be the heterotopia, another Foucauldian concept. And finally, I will deal with the Lacanian idea of anxiety. So without further ado, biopower. Sylvia Plath locates the biopolitics of male culture in her world of text, where the female is not only the other, but also her body becomes a center of mapping, the structure of language, enforcing the logic of silence. Foucault supplements that, to quote, biopolitics deals with the population as a political problem, as a problem that is at once scientific and political, as a biological problem, and as a powers problem. Quote close. With respect to language, man is both the biological problem as well as powers problem, when it uses female body as a text for their violence. Now, when I say man is a biological problem, I am not referring to the man as a symptom. I am referring to the testosterone surges that are there that led them to the rape. And violation. So, when I'm talking about the violence, I would talk about three particular aspects. First, her father. The violence that her father mitigates on her. One of the examples that have come to light, revealed very recently by her granddaughter. We all know that her father used her as one of the methods to punish. What he used to do is there's a whipping boy. Initially, he never used to hit Plath directly. He used to have this boy and whip that boy in front of Plath whenever Plath makes a mistake. But later, at twice, 2 points of time, she was asked to kneel over and he uses his belt on her naked skin, on her back. And that left mark, not physically only, but psychologically. Secondly, the husband uses the biopolitics. One of the examples that I want to give is one after some miscarriages. As we know, Sylvia Plath had a lot of miscarriages. At one point of time, he refused to have intercourse with Ted Hughes. And Ted Hughes one night got really frustrated and got drunk and brought a prostitute back at home and bound Plath on the other bed and had sex with the prostitute in the other. So that is also a violation. And finally, when she was being treated by the doctor, her biospace has been violated. As, to use Foucault's term, more you care, less you cure. So the surges of electricity through her veins have defrayed her. And that, many doctors, as they have said, is one of the causes of the miscarriages. Biopower is a term Foucault uses to describe the new tactics of power when it focuses on life, that is to say individual bodies and populations, when such mechanisms differ from those that exert their influence in legal and political sphere of sovereign power. Close quote. In Plath's text, her body becomes the subtext, and her suicide is the necropolitics of counterculture, challenging the phallocentric gaze of male presence in her life. Now, we all know about the suicide of Plath. I would like to see that, as Mabembe has talked about necropolitics, she uses her suicide as a methodology to counter the male biopolitics through her necropolitics, that is death, the politics of death. And you know, necropolitics is brilliantly summed up by Agamben as droit à la garde, the right to kill. So she has the right to kill herself. In Homo Sacra, Agamben takes up Foucault's analysis and brings it into play on the very terrain that the latest wanted to break with, namely the field of sovereignty. The violence of phallic logos is gradually subverted in her diaries as Plath's body decodes the encrypted paradox of such sovereignty. My second part of my paper is heterotopia. Plath has chosen the mountaintop, metaphorically, where she could unite with the wind and sky, as she writes. This strategic position of hers is incidental in furthering our argument about the intangible nature of her identity, as this mountaintop for her becomes a Foucauldian heterotopia. Foucault defines heterotopia as, quote, real and effective spaces, which are outlined in the very institution of society, but which constitute a sort of counter-arrangement of effectively realized utopia, in which all the real arrangement, all the other real arrangements that can be found within the society are at one and at the same time represented, challenged, overturned. A sort of place that lies outside all places and yet is actually localizable. We can see that is in her diary entries. Today is the 1st of August. It is hot, steamy and wet. It is raining. I'm tempted to write a poem, but I remember what it said on one rejection slip. After heavy rainfall, poems, tilted rain, pouring from across the nation. So her heterotopic realm, an alternate space, a space in which time never functions, is very important. In another place, I read in a quote, with me the present is forever, and forever is always shifting, flowing, melting. This second is life, and when it is gone, it is dead. But you can't start over with each new second. You have to judge by what is dead. It is like quicksand, hopeless from the start. So her existence in this heterotopic realm is very important. And you know, one very interesting point I often read about Plath, that whenever she used to bleed herself, like she used to cut both her wrists, right? And she just never used to cut only. She used to cut and put it in the basin and put the tap on so that the blood keeps on flowing. That is very important, you know. If it is just an impulsive cutting in her hand, she would have just cut it and done with it. She enjoyed that realm of heterotopia, that pain, that ever-flowing blood, the fluidity of the water flowing with the blood. And that space is very, very important for her. The one thought that is not fluid but seeks stability and crystallizes is the fact that she never intends to go back. Had such been the case, she would have been a prisoner in the heterotopic realm, and one that is real always remained an absence. Foucault, in an attempt to distinguish between the two realms, comments, quote, on the one hand, Big, the heterotopic realm, performs the task of creating a space of illusion that reveals how all the real space is more illusory, and the locations within which life is fragmented. On the other, the heterotopic realm, they have the function of performing another space, another real space, as perfect, meticulous, and well arranged as ours, is disordered, ill-conceived, and in a sketchy state. So this heterotopic realm is another point where this another instance that comes to my mind, that when she took pills, sleeping pills, 38 of them together, and she put herself on a sack and bound the upper part and remained inside, so that nobody would find. But of course she was found, she was rescued, and she was given to the hospital for the treatment again. So this realm, though she is claustrophobic, mind you, so that choice of getting into that sack and taking the pill and floating inside and outside the consciousness, but she knows the outside is real and exists. Okay, the final part of my paper, I will deal with anxiety. How much time do you have?
You have about 10 minutes.
Thank you. Okay. Now, I will be dealing with this Lacan's method, and I will try and establish Sylvia Plath's position in that. On the side of man, that is left side, the second formula shows that whole and all of man, not all the men, comes under the phallic function. However, the first formula on this side shows one at the position of an exception, one for whom the phallic function is wholly negated. This position, of course, as we know, she has given to her husband, Ted Hughes. What these two formula tells us is that all/whole of man, the subject in the masculine position, is marked by phallic zoisa. Precisely because this subject imagines the ultimate zoisa as a phallic zoisa in the form of the uncastrated father. It is their inscription of an exception outside castration that marks the limit of their zoisa by castration, therefore making it entirely phallic in nature. So her relationship with that of the father is completely phallic in nature. It is because they know what the ultimate zoisa can be, it is because they know what is the outside their set, that their zoisa is finite. On the side of woman, the right side, the second formula shows that all or whole of woman does not come under the phallic function, that is her position as a being, as an artist, as a writer, as the novelist of the bell jar, and her poetry. And the first formula on this side shows that, however, there is no exception for whom the phallic function is wholly negated. What these two formulae tells us is that subject in the feminine position does not inscribe anyone wholly outside castration. And it is precisely because the subject here does not know what the absolute zoisa is, because there is no outside of their set, that their zoisa is finite. Phallic zoisa is part of it, but not all. All or/whole of the feminine subject is not about phallic zoisa, as we all know. Therefore, Lacan defines the specially feminine zoisa as a zoisa beyond phallus. And that is why she, as a writer, have a very, very different kind of a positionality. And we can quote from Helen Sixshu, where she subverts the Cartesian formula of je pense donc je suis, by saying plus de corps, donc plus d'écriture, more body, therefore more writing. And she writes, simply to invoke anatomy risks a return to the crude essentialism that has oppressed women in the past. Textuality through anatomy is resolved in textual anatomy of her diaries. And she textualizes anatomy and corporealizes textuality, as can be seen by one of her journal entries, where she says, if I didn't think, I would be much happier. If I didn't have any sex organs, I wouldn't waver on the brink of nervous emotions and tears all the time. again, in another entry, she says, if only my art, my writing, isn't just a mere sublimation of my sexual desires, which will run dry once I'll get married. So we can see textualizing the anatomy and corporalizing the textuality is a very important part. Now, to continue with the second part of the diagram, which first part I have discussed, to the second part. On the side of man, that is left side, we see that there is a barred subject. This is the barred subject, right? That one, as we know. And the phallic signifier, that is the phi. On the side of woman, the right side, you see the barred woman as it does not exist. Subject or the object alpha. And the signifier of the barred other, that is that one, S with the desired A being barred. While on the side of man, there is no line that connects the barred subject to the phallic signifier. And therefore, at the end of the day, the connection between her and her husband is the barred subject to that of the phallic signifier. There is a line that connects the barred subject to the object alpha. On the side of a woman, and on the side of woman, there is no line that connects the barred woman to the object alpha. There is a line that connects her to the signifier of the barred other, and another line that connects her to the phallic signifier on the side of man. So, through this diagram of Laka, though Laka is, of course, as you know, is nothing to do with that of the feminism or feminine writing, but I have chosen Lacanian matheme for a reason, because Lacanian matheme it may be criticized as a deterministic feminism, but I would rather find that this is this is my diary, and I wrote from there. This schema of S, the capital signifier, and S, the signified. The capital S is where you have her diaries and writings. And the small s is where you have poetry as well. So, of course, as you can see, I have put a Borromean note out there, and which represents, as you all know, the order of the imaginary, order of the symbolic, and order of the real. So, the order of the imaginary is the state that Plath belonged to before she started writing this corner. Maybe it's not very clear anyway. The order of the symbolic is when she has started getting her work represented, and that Venn diagram, as you can say, is in the intersection. We call it protomorphic proliferation, is where her diaries exist. So, in the intersection of the order of the symbolic and order of the imaginary, we see the protomorphic proliferation, which is our diary writing and journal, and the order of symbolic definitely represents that of her poetry. And in the intersection between the order of the symbolic and order of the real, we have the vegetative intuiveness, which is represented by her efforts of suicide, right? She has attempted many forms of suicides, and that can be treated as vegetative intuiveness. And in the intersection of all the three lies the symptom of her as a woman. I would like to end my paper with something that, again, I would take from Hélène Sixchou. Hélène Sixchou writes, le rapport à l'oralité fait également d'écriture féminine, enchantée devant la loi. Le chant est encore une métaphore récurrente. Translated as, orality also makes female writing a song before the law. A song is still a recurring metaphor. And as I could find that there is a beautiful song that I will just read some of the lines to end. She writes, click, click, tick, tick, clock snips, time in two. Lap of rain in the drain pipe, 2 o'clock, and never you. Never you, down the evening, I cannot cry or even smile. Acidity or bittersweetly, for never you and incompletely. Things around me I can touch, I could touch, soap or toothbrush, desk or chair, Never mind the three dimensions, all is flat and you are not there. Letters, paper, stamps, and white and black, typewritten you, and there it is. The trickle, liquid trickle of rain in drain pipe is voice enough for me tonight. And the click, 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 heart too quick, click, click of the clock is painful enough. Enough heartbeat for me tonight. The narrow cot, the iron bed is space enough, and the warm through. Enough to bed and sleep, and tearless creep, the formless seconds, minutes, hours, and never you. The raindrops weep, and never you. And tick, tick, and tick, tick, and tick tock, past hours. Thank you.